Hello and welcome to Z. In this episode, we are traveling to Rome and explore the ancient amphitheater, Colosseum. Stay with us until the end of this video. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. Colosseum. The Colosseum is an oval amphitheater located in Rome, Italy, just east of the Roman Forum. It is the largest ancient amphitheater ever erected and, despite its age, the largest standing amphitheater in the world today. Construction began in 72 during the reign of Emperor Vespasian, r. 69 to 79 AD, and was completed in 80 AD under the reign of his successor and heir, Titus, r. 79 to 81. During Domitian's rule, additional changes were enacted, r. 81 to 96. The Flavian dynasty was the patrons of the undertaking, and the amphitheater was renamed the Flavian Amphitheater by later classicists and archaeologists because of its affiliation with their surname, Flavius. Travertine limestone, tough, volcanic rock, and brick-faced concrete were used to construct the Colosseum. At various points in its history, it could hold an estimated 50,000 to 80,000 spectators, with an average audience of around 65,000. It was used for gladiatorial contests and public spectacles such as animal hunts, executions, reenactments of famous battles, and dramas based on Roman mythology, as well as briefly mock sea battles. In the early medieval period, the edifice was no longer used for entertainment. It was eventually repurposed for houses, workshops, religious order apartments, a castle, a quarry, and a Christian shrine. Despite being significantly damaged by earthquakes and stone robbers stealing spolia, the Colosseum remains an iconic symbol of imperial Rome and was named one of the new 7 wonders of the world. It is one of Rome's most prominent tourist attractions, and it also has connections to the Roman Catholic Church, as the Pope leads a torchlit Way of the Cross procession that begins in the region around the Colosseum every Good Friday. The Colosseum is portrayed on the 5-cent euro coin in Italy. History. The intended location was a level area on the floor of a low valley between the Celian, Esquiline, and Palatine hills, through which a canalist stream and an artificial lake/marsh passed. The area was intensively populated by the 2nd century BC. It was completely destroyed by the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD, after which Nero took part of the territory to expand his personal realm. On the site, he constructed the magnificent Domus Aurea, in front of which he created an artificial lake encircled by pavilions, gardens, and porticos. The existing Aqua Claudia aqueduct was expanded to bring water to the area, and the massive bronze Colossus of Nero was erected nearby at the Domus Aurea's entrance. While the Colossus was spared, much of the Domus Aurea was demolished. The lake was filled in, and the site was repurposed for the new Flavian Amphitheater. Gladiatorial schools and other support structures were built nearby on the old grounds of the Domus Aurea. Vespasian's choice to build the Colosseum on the site of Nero's lake can be interpreted as a populist effort to return to the people a section of the city that Nero had taken for himself. Unlike many other amphitheaters, which were built on the outskirts of a city, the Colosseum was built in the city center, effectively positioning it both figuratively and physically at the heart of Rome. The magnificent spoils plundered from the Jewish temple following the siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD were used to pay construction. The Emperor Vespasian ordered this new amphitheater to be created from his general's share of the spoils, according to a reconstructed inscription discovered on the site. There is no ancient proof that Jewish prisoners of war were taken back to Rome and contributed to the vast manpower required for the construction of the amphitheater, although it would be consistent with Roman practice to humiliate the defeated populace. Along with this free source of unskilled labor, teams of experienced Roman builders, engineers, artists, painters, and decorators worked on the Colosseum's more specialized jobs. The Colosseum was built with a variety of materials, including wood, limestone, tuff, tiles, cement, and mortar. The construction of the Colosseum began in 70 to 72 AD during the reign of Vespasian, 73 to 75 AD according to some sources. By the time Vespasian died in 79, the Colosseum had been built up to the third story. His son, Titus, completed the top level in 80, and the first games were held in 80 or 81 AD. According to Dio Cassius, nearly 9,000 wild animals were slaughtered during the amphitheater's initial games. The inauguration was commemorated with commemorative coins. The structure was extensively remodeled by Vespasian's younger son, the newly proclaimed Emperor Domitian, who built the Hypogeum, a system of tunnels used to keep animals and slaves. He also constructed a gallery to the Colosseum's roof to boost seating capacity. A huge fire, caused by lightning, according to Dio Cassius, severely damaged the Colosseum in 217, destroying the wooden upper levels of the amphitheater's interior. It was not totally repaired until around 240, then it was repaired again in 250 or 252, and again in 320. Honorius prohibited gladiator combat in 399 and again in 404. Gladiatorial combat was last mentioned about the year 435. Under Theodosius II and Valentinian III, reigned 425 to 455, an inscription chronicles the renovation of several areas of the Colosseum, possibly to repair damage caused by a large earthquake in 443. More work followed in 484 and 508. The arena was being used for competitions well into the 6th century. Animal hunts continued until at least 523, when Anicius Maximus celebrated his consulship with some Venetians, which King Theodoric the Great chastised for being too expensive. Medieval. The Colosseum's use changed dramatically multiple times. By the late 6th century, a tiny chapel had been erected into the framework of the amphitheater, albeit this did not appear to confer any religious significance on the edifice as a whole. The arena has been transformed into a cemetery. The numerous vaulted areas beneath the sitting in the arcades were turned into apartments and workshops, and were being rented out as late as the 12th century. Around 1200, the Frangipani family fortified the Colosseum and supposedly used it as a castle. The Great Earthquake of 1349 caused severe damage to the Colosseum, causing the outer south side, which was built on less solid alluvial terrain, to collapse. Much of the tumbled stone was repurposed to construct palaces, churches, hospitals, and other structures across Rome. In the mid-14th century, a monastic order relocated into the northern part of the Colosseum and remained there until the early 19th century. The inside of the amphitheater was severely stripped of stone, which was either reused elsewhere or burned to generate quicklime, in the case of the marble facade. The iron clamps that kept the stones together were pulled or hacked out of the walls, creating numerous pockmarks that are still visible today. Modern. Church officials sought a beneficial function for the Colosseum in the 16th and 17th centuries. Pope Sixtus V, 1585 to 1590, intended to convert the structure into a wool factory to offer employment for Rome's prostitutes, but his death prevented this from happening. Cardinal Altieri allowed its usage for bullfights in 1671, but the proposal was quickly abandoned due to public uproar. Pope Benedict XIV agreed in 1749 that the Colosseum was a hallowed spot where early Christians were killed. He prohibited the Colosseum from being used as a quarry and dedicated it to the Passion of Christ, installing stations of the cross and declaring it holy by the blood of the Christian martyrs who died there. There is, however, no historical evidence to support Benedict's claim, nor is there any evidence that anyone before the 16th century suggested this might be the case. The Catholic Encyclopedia concludes that there are no historical grounds for the supposition, other than the reasonably plausible conjecture that some of the many martyrs were Later popes started different stabilization and restoration operations, including the removal of vast vegetation that had overtaken the edifice and threatened to cause further harm. In 1807 and 1827, the facade was reinforced with triangular brick wedges, while the interior was rebuilt in 1831, 1846, and the 1930s. The arena substructure was partially excavated in 1810 to 1814 and 1874, and it was fully uncovered in the 1930s under Benito Mussolini. Today, the Colosseum is one of Rome's most renowned tourist sites, attracting millions of visitors each year. The consequences of pollution and general deterioration over time spurred a significant restoration program between 1993 and 2000 at a cost of lire 40 billion, $19.3 million / 20.6 million euros in 2000 prices. The Colosseum has recently become a symbol of the international effort to abolish capital punishment, which was abolished in Italy in 1948. In the year 2000, there were several anti-death penalty demonstrations in front of the Colosseum. Since that time, the city of Rome has changed the color of the Colosseum's nighttime illumination from white to gold anytime a person sentenced to death anywhere in the world has their sentence commuted or is released, or whenever a jurisdiction abolishes the death penalty. The Colosseum was most recently illuminated with gold in November 2012, following the abolition of the death penalty in the American state of Connecticut in April 2012. Because of the destroyed state of the interior, large events cannot be held at the Colosseum. Only a few hundred spectators can be accommodated in temporary seating. Much larger performances, however, have been hosted just outside, with the Colosseum as a backdrop. Ray Charles, May 2002, Paul McCartney, May 2003, Elton John, September 2005, and Billy Joel have all performed at the Colosseum in recent years, July 2006. This is all for now. Thank you for being with us.